We are about a month away from the NFL draft, and with the draft combine in the rearview mirror, the quarterback picture is finally starting to clear up. Getting right into it, the number one prospect is Fernando Mendoza. After spending 3 years at Cal, he transferred to Indiana and put together an absolute dream season. He threw for over 3,500 yards, tossed 41 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions, won the Heisman, and led the Hoosiers to a national title. He thrives when the offense gives him a simple read that forces a single defender to make a choice, and he almost never misses his target. He has a fiery, natural throwing motion, and he is absolutely lethal near the goal line, throwing 27 touchdowns without a single pick in the red zone. What really sets him apart, though, is his toughness. He engineered a massive game-winning drive on the road against Penn State, shook off an early injury in a brutal Big Ten title game against Ohio State, and ran in the game-winning score in the national championship. He is the heavy favorite to go first overall to the Raiders, but he isn't perfect. When a play breaks down and he has to run, his accuracy falls off a cliff. He also basically never took snaps from directly under the center in college, which is something he will have to learn from scratch in the pros to help set up play-action passes. Right behind him is Alabama's Ty Simpson. He had a rocky start to the season, but caught fire during a brutal mid-season stretch against some of the best teams in the country. He's an incredibly calm player with a good arm, and he never really looks rattled in the pocket. Because he grew up around the game with a football coach for a father, his awareness is off the charts. Alabama let him change plays and adjust blockers at the line of scrimmage, which is rare for a guy who only has about 15 career starts. He's also surprisingly slippery, able to dodge defenders and make throws on the run. He looked fantastic throwing deep passes at the combine, but on actual game tape, his deep ball accuracy left a lot to be desired. The biggest problem with Simpson is that he simply refuses to give up on a play. He will hold on to the ball forever, running in circles trying to make magic happen instead of just throwing it away, which leads to completely avoidable negative plays. Teams love his potential, but his lack of starting experience makes him a bit of a gamble. Moving into the guys who will likely get drafted on the second or third day, we have LSU's Garrett Nussmeier. He came into the year with massive hype after a monster previous season, but injuries, including a bad knee, really slowed him down. When he's right, he's a fearless passer who plays with incredible anticipation. He knows exactly where his receivers are going to be before they even make their cuts, and he can easily change the angle of his arm to fit the ball through tight spaces. He navigated the pre-draft process well, proving he was finally healthy at the Senior Bowl and reminding everyone how smoothly he throws the ball. However, his arm strength is just average, and LSU's offense mostly forced him to throw short, quick passes. Because he trusts his eyes so much, he can sometimes be a bit too much of a daredevil, forcing passes that he really shouldn't. Most teams see him as a guy who will have a very long career in the league as a reliable backup who can spot start when needed. Then there's Carson Beck. He looked like a potential number 1 overall pick a year ago, but after a rough end to his time at Georgia, he transferred to Miami and got his career back on track. He's a pure rhythm passer. If you keep him protected and let him play on schedule, he will pick a defense apart. He gets the ball out of his hands incredibly fast and rarely makes a bad decision, making him one of the most accurate passers in the country last year. The issue is that he had a massive advantage at Miami. He played behind an offensive line that almost never let him get hit, and he had great receivers to throw to. When teams did manage to get in his face and force him to move, his accuracy completely fell apart. He needs to go to a team that already has a great foundation in place because he is not the type of quarterback who can carry a bad roster on his back. If you're just looking at pure physical size and arm strength, Penn State's Drew Allar is the best quarterback in the draft. He's a massive human being who can easily fire the ball into incredibly tight windows over the middle of the field. He has a ton of starting experience and took a nice step forward in his development, but his final season was completely derailed by a broken ankle. When he finally got back on the field at the combine, evaluators were thrilled. The ball just explodes out of his hand. The problem with Allar is his actual game tape against top-tier schools. He looks like a superstar against average teams, but whenever the lights were brightest, he struggled to put together a signature performance. His ball placement can be wildly inconsistent, forcing his receivers to constantly jump or reach behind themselves to make a catch. A smart coaching staff will likely draft him higher than he should go, convinced they can fix his throwing mechanics and unlock all that natural talent. For teams looking for a real project, North Dakota State's Cole Payton fits the bill. After missing a huge chunk of time with a shoulder injury, he bounced back in a big way. He's built tough, capable of standing in the pocket and taking a massive hit right as he delivers a deep pass. He's also a nightmare for defenses in short yardage running situations because he refuses to go down easily. He looked incredibly consistent during the Senior Bowl practices, proving he can make tough throws over the middle of the field. Speaking of raw athletes, Arkansas quarterback Taylor Green put on a historic show at the Combine. He ran a blazing 40-yard dash and posted massive jump numbers. He is a tall, long-striding runner who is an absolute nightmare for linebackers to catch in the open field, and he has a cannon for an arm that allows him to easily push the ball deep. If a team has a few years to let a guy sit on the bench and learn, Green is the ultimate lottery ticket. Unfortunately, the flaws in his game right now are glaring. He takes entirely too long to make a decision and throw the ball, which leads to a ton of completely avoidable sacks. When he does face real defensive pressure, he tends to panic and his accuracy plummets. He is a true boom or bust player whose footwork and timing need a complete overhaul from the ground up. Illinois quarterback Luke Altmaier is almost the exact opposite. He is a distributor. He acts like a point guard on the football field, quickly identifying the weak spots in the defense and getting the ball out of his hands in a hurry to his playmakers. He spent a lot of time playing from different formations, taking snaps under center and executing play-action fakes, which translates perfectly to the pro game. He has plenty of speed to scramble and pick up a first down when everyone is covered. The knock on Altmaier is that he has a fairly average arm, yet he plays like he has a cannon. He gets overly confident and tries to force the ball into tiny windows that he simply doesn't have the arm strength to hit. Like Nussmeier, he is viewed as a high-end, highly intelligent backup who could hang around the league for a very long time. Clemson's Cade Klubnik is a bit of a puzzle. He had a great offensive line and excellent receivers returning, setting him up for a massive year. But the results were just okay. When the team ran play action, he was fantastic, cleanly distributing the ball to all his targets underneath the coverage. He is also dangerous when he decides to scramble, but his overall game is incredibly streaky. He will look unstoppable for a quarter and then completely disappear. He hesitates a lot, waiting for a receiver to be visibly wide open rather than anticipating the break and throwing the ball to a spot. And just like many others in this tier, the moment a defender gets in his face, his mechanics break down and the ball sails everywhere. He doesn't have one elite trait to hang his hat on, making him a likely late-round pick. Over at Baylor, Sawyer Robertson made a living by attacking teams deep. He played in a wide-open offense and consistently put up huge passing numbers by quickly deciding where the ball needed to go and letting it fly. He loves pushing the ball down the field and rarely hesitates when he sees an opening. The problem is what happens when a defense forces him to play faster than he wants to. When he gets sped up, his footwork gets sloppy, which led to a ton of underthrown passes and bad decisions. He threw a concerning amount of interceptions late in games, usually because he didn't see a defender sitting in the passing lane. If you want a true late-round sleeper, look at Joe Fagnano from UConn. He is a rare seventh-year senior who is incredibly smart and mechanically sound. His eyes and his feet always work together, and he gets the ball out of his hands faster than almost anyone in college football. He played his best games against the toughest opponents on his schedule, showing real grit. However, he is going to be 25 years old by the time the draft rolls around, and his offense was heavily based on throwing short, safe passes near the line of scrimmage. He just doesn't have the natural passing power to wow scouts or test tight coverages, meaning he will have to fight tooth and nail just to make a practice squad. Finally, we have Diego Pavia. After starting in junior college and grinding his way to Vanderbilt, he became the catalyst for one of the greatest program turnarounds in recent memory. He plays with a massive chip on his shoulder and is pure magic when a play breaks down and he has to create something out of nothing. He takes big risks, pushes the ball down the field, and never backs down from a loaded stadium. But the reality of the pro game is harsh. He is barely 5'10", which is incredibly tiny for a pro quarterback. He struggles to read the entire field, and because he is used to running for his life, he often bails out of perfectly clean pockets way too early. His competitive drive is completely off the charts, and some coach might fall in love with his heart late in the draft, but his physical limitations are impossible to ignore.